What's up, y'all? Holy moly. This is the second time I'm doing this today because the first one didn't work. So if you're watching the first one with me, my apologies. You're going to hear some of this again. Hopefully, I'll be a little more on point this time because I've already read a lot of it once. Well, technically, this will be like my second or third time reading some of these. But anyway, today has been a terrible day for the computer, as I mentioned in my first post, my first stream. I had a couple blue screens today because of drivers with a controller, and then just now, I ran out of space on my hard drive, and then I was getting ready to record again, and my mouse cursor disappeared because I had rolled back a bunch of drivers trying to fix everything earlier. This has just been a beautiful, wonderful day of people smashing sheet metal outside of my house, yelling, barking dogs, slamming doors. So it's been a very good day for my noise sensitivity and just overall happiness. It's been great, folks. Fucking great. So, as I always do, I will encourage you to enjoy this beautiful time we're going to have together on one of the various video platforms. Of course, my first suggestion is that you subscribe to our Twitch, twitch.tv/FreeChinaPost, and ring the bell, and you'll see every time I go live. Sometimes it's for updates like these beautiful Worker Wednesday updates. Sometimes it's just for FCP updates. And sometimes it's for other things we do, like the book club that I'm hoping to get back going once Ari has finished some of these things he has to do. And also for games. I streamed a little gaming with some buds earlier, and I'm probably going to stream some more gaming tonight. And if you come to those, you can kind of just hang out. And if you have the same game, I'll probably just squat up with you and play. But you can also just watch, ask questions. It's a really good way if you have questions or feedback or whatever to hit us up on that. And then I can get you your answers that you're looking for. Or if you have like some sort of suggestion, whether that's like an article or something you would like to see us talk about, or a game that you would like to see us play, or a movie that you think we should watch and then review for the site, do that. And yeah, it's a good way just to interact live and have some fun. So yeah, definitely check out the Twitch, but you can also do the YouTube. Same thing with the YouTube. Please make sure you subscribe. It really helps us with the algorithms, which they're really trying to bury small content creators like ourselves, and then ring the bell so you can hopefully see when we put up new videos. I have heard some people say that they get like the bell unrung for them, or even some people that have said they gotten unsubscribed. So I don't know. Just check on there every once in a while. But if you'll be seeing content. I post at least once a week, usually 4 to 5 times I post videos on there a week. So yeah, if you're not seeing content, make sure to go check it out, 'cause something funny is in the mix. But also, yeah, if you're just listening on the podcast feed, that's chill too. But make sure you should be subscribed there for all the other podcasts we do, and interviews and stuff that we sometimes have will all go up on there. So check that out. But yeah. Anyway, let's get into it since I'm very deep into this today. So first things first. Ooh, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's go back. We're still back here on U.S. news. Okay, so we'll start with this. This is from the Brookings Institute. got my issues with them, but I think this is an important thing to just mention real quick off the top. Is long COVID worsening the labor shortage? Quick answer for y'all. The answer is yes, it is. It is making our COVID situation worse. Okay, so post-acute sequelae of COVID-19, or I definitely pronounced it wrong. Sequelae, whatever. I don't care. I ain't no smart, fancy, rich boy that learns all these big city words. Long COVID. All right. So currently we have 10.6 million unfilled jobs across the country in the U.S. A lot of other countries are seeing similar things. The answer is yes. It's partially due to long COVID. The other part is just people getting COVID all the time, especially with how fast the Omicron variant spreads. So this is saying we have some figures here that show, yes, there are about 31 million Americans who may have had long COVID. Okay. And then there's a graph here that shows that, as it says, the U.S. labor market may be missing 1.6 million full-time workers due to long COVID. We don't know what the Omicron variant right now, because it's so new, or potentially future variants will hold that could make that so much worse, and also could potentially, it doesn't look like Omicron is killing as many people, still killing quite a few people, like close to 2,000 a day in the United States. But future variants might be much worse, so we need to stop the spread instead of doing what we're doing, which is spreading even more and sending people who are sick back to work. Thank you, Biden and Dr. Fauci. So, this is kind of an example of this. Headline here, Delta Airlines and a union spar over isolation periods for sick workers. So, Delta is fighting with the Association of Flight Attendants. This is, again, thanks to Dr. Fauci, who has decided that we should start sending people back to work when they're still sick. And he said this. He said it doesn't really matter as long as you are somewhat unsymptomatic. Go back to work after 5 days instead of 10 days, which is also too short of a time. Especially with a new variant that we don't understand that well. So here it says, airlines canceled tens of thousands of flights over the holiday in response to bad weather because thousands of employees called in sick in a single day. Nearly a third of United Airlines employees at the Newark Liberty International Airport reported being unable to work, and about 3,000 United employees have recently tested positive for the virus. Okay, again, they slashed this quarantine period from 10 days to 5 days, and so, of course, Delta slashed its paid sick leave policy to 5 days. Though you can get 2 additional paid days if you choose to get tested and your results are positive. So this is actually better than the situation for a lot of companies where even if you're still positive, they will literally fire you if you don't come back to work. There's been numerous stories of that happening. Okay. So they mention in here Delta, which said that over 95% of its workforce is vaccinated, said employees may return to work if they only if they have no symptoms and must wear a mask in all settings throughout the 10th day after testing positive. Now, that's good. You should wear a mask. It does seem that even, again, it depends on what kind of mask they're wearing. When you look at the data, and this is previous data, not with Omicron, but it should be similar, I would assume. But that's just an assumption on my part. If you're wearing a cloth mask, you basically have about 5 minutes of protection inside of a room. And an airplane is similar to that. It's similar to a room. Now they have ways to hopefully filter the air and things like that. But if you're a flight attendant leading in, asking people if they need assistance, etc., you're probably going to spread it. Okay, you're probably going to spread it. If they're wearing N95s, if you're wearing a respirator, yeah, maybe you could be all right. So that would be kind of an interesting, like, steampunk future of if all flight attendants just start wearing respirators. But I don't think that the airlines are going to fit the bill for that. So we'll see. Um, but yeah. Also, this part right here, we had this conversation on the podcast, so I won't totally rehash it. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's differences in the fact that they're vaccinated. Again, with Omicron, we don't have the data really to talk about it, but in terms of spreading the disease to their people on the flight, it doesn't seem to really matter, even before Omicron, if you're vaccinated or not. There are an insane number of these breakthrough cases, as they call them. It's pretty clear that vaccination doesn't really stop you from spreading the disease. So this is kind of just a way for them to say, well, we're vaccinated. 95% are vaccinated, so it should be fine, right? It's probably not going to help us spread. Anyway, here's another union fighting to do something for its workers and increase their benefits, is King Scoopers, which is owned by Kroger's. Kroger is a notoriously bad boss to have, it seems. We've seen a lot of striking workers out of here. So this is the union representing more than 8,700 King Scooper supermarket workers rejected the Kroger-owned Colorado chain's increased wage offer, setting the stage for a 3-week strike starting Wednesday. So they had offered, and this is their last, best, and final offer, as Kroger's or King Scoopers is saying here, of $170 million wage dollars for increased wages. The union has already rejected several offers that they had previously put forward, including a $148 million investment in wages and signing bonuses over 3 years. And that happened last week. So it's still going to be not enough, and some are saying that even this latest offer was actually worse than some of their previous offers. So the union is looking for $6 an hour for all of its workers. However, the company's last, best, and final offer, as they say here, was only $4.50 per hour and was based on wage classification and tenure. So this would be it depends on the workers, but you get about 47,000 a year compared with 46,000 a year as it was previously, and that's actually not totally true for all workers. Again, it depends on your position. But okay, so say we say that if we say it's 47 up from 46, that's still pretty low in the grand scheme of things, right? It's especially when you take in the fact that like inflation is exploding right now. It's just not that much money, especially if you're raising a family. It's not going to be acceptable. Okay, it's also well below what they could be paying, especially when we look at this next story. Same thing, same topic. This one, they talk a little bit more about how you have people living on, you have people on food stamps, you have people living in their cars. Okay, so there's like it says here, there's a survey of over 10,000 Kroger workers in California, Washington, and Colorado published on the 11th of January, and the Economic Roundtable found that 14% of Kroger workers experienced homelessness in the past year. Food insecurity among workers surveyed was rampant, with 34% of workers skipping or reducing meals because they could not afford food, and 14% of workers rely on SNAP assistance. So they're relying on government benefits because the company they work for, usually full-time, does not pay them enough money. It's unheard of. Also, it's not like Kroger is struggling. Kroger, the largest supermarket chain in the U.S., as it says here, have seen profits and sales soar through the pandemic. The company reported a profit of $2.6 billion in 2020, and the Kroger CEO, Rodney McMullen, received a wage increase of 45%. These people are asking for like a few percentage points on their wages to increase, okay? A few dollars for each worker. This guy got a 45% increase in his wages, okay? up to 20.6 million. So even if we take that previous, probably what I would say was a little bit inflated number, but okay, say we take that as an average. Some people are making below that. But say we take this 47,000 number. You take $20.6 million per year divided by 47,000. What do you get, folks? You do a little quick maths, and you get 438%, a little over 438 times what they're making is what the CEO is making. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that he's making that much more money. He is not working 438 times harder than these people. He's just not. As a person who's worked in like quote unquote low level jobs or like customer service work, they're not working that much harder. He's not working that much harder. What he's doing is he's stealing these people's labor, and he's basically being like a vulture and taking advantage of the fact that these people have nowhere else to turn, especially during a pandemic. Okay, so it's ridiculous. He's not doing anything that these people couldn't learn to do in a few years. It's just that they didn't have the, whatever it is, didn't have the connections that he had. Maybe didn't get into the same school that he had because of maybe you have rich parents, et cetera, et cetera. It's ridiculous. And I'm not saying that we need to pay everyone equally, but I am saying that it is absolutely unacceptable that taxpayers are subsidizing these people to survive because some asshat needs to make $20.6 million a year, okay, while a company makes $2.6 billion in profits. Absolutely unacceptable. We cannot allow this to continue. It's absurd. Okay, so Brookings Institute said that they raised wages from $15 an hour in January to $16.25 an hour in October 2021. But recent inflation rates basically just equate to 17 cents an hour, which is what I said earlier. You need to also pay attention to inflation, which is why we need to raise wages to what they should be if you would have tied them to like production increases or inflation. They should be about $23 an hour in the United States right now. Okay, so you raise them to about 23. Let's just make it 25. Forget the fight for 15, fight for 25. Okay, you should raise them to 25, and you should tie them to inflation because we are America. We can do anything. We are a powerful, strong nation. I don't live in America anymore, so it's kind of its own deal. Anyway, tie them to inflation, raise them. Okay. So what you have here again, it's just insane. But also, if you take this number, you take this 1625 number, he's actually making even more. So originally I said it was 438. If you take the 1625 number, he's making 609.46 times these average workers. Just disgusting. Anyway, let's look at some positive news. So this article is titled Art Institute Employees Win Vote to Form Chicago's First Major Museum Union. So we have employees at the Art Institute of Chicago formed a union, and they did so pretty overwhelmingly, actually. They formed a union with a vote of 142 in favor, 44 opposed, and 20 ballots were thrown out because the Art Institute challenged the eligibility of them, but they still passed, okay? So this is very good to see, and it's exciting to see people win unions, and hopefully they will get... I keep getting this ad for selling your products in China because I clicked on it. I don't know why I got it in the first place, but I clicked on it on one of these things before and chatted with the bot on there that they pretend is a real person, and yeah, we had an issue with that. But now I just get them all the time. It's so funny. They just changed it to some cell phone game, which I don't play cell phone games either, so it's kind of funny. It's kind of like they're listening to me though, but if they change it from the cell phone game to something else, that's going to weird me out. So, yeah, this is good to hear. And here's a story about another union that just won, which is the Cheektowaga Starbucks. It was also in Buffalo, like the first one that was in Elmwood Village. So this is the second Starbucks to unionize. Personally, not a big fan of Starbucks. Never, because again, massive corporation. I prefer to shop local if I can. Sometimes it's unavoidable. If you like your Starbucks, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but as we talked about on the last podcast, everyone needs to live their values. You need to live your values, folks. So I'm happy that these employees working there are unionized, and hopefully we'll get better representation. And what they're mostly fighting for is adequate COVID protections, which they've had. Okay, so hopefully this will help them on their journey to adequate protections from COVID. But again, yeah, I've literally never bought one thing at a Starbucks before, so yeah, I'm not a big fan, but I am in favor of workers. So here you go. Shout outs to them. Here's another piece of positive news, is that workers in Bessemer, Alabama will get a second bite at the apple on February 4th. They will be getting to vote again on their election because the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, decided that Amazon broke labor laws, which, again, you break labor laws, you should be, I think, you don't get a warning, first of all. What you get is you get a huge fine the first time. And then subsequently, I think what you should get is probably something like I don't know, the second time, let's say maybe you get like a 50% of your company profits for that year you have to pay. And the third offense is you just pay all of your company profits, and they go back into compensating these workers. You shouldn't be able to get to violate these labor laws if you can't stop from union busting, so your employees can not have to live off government assistance, or also because of labor conditions in some of these places, literally just drop dead while they're working. Then maybe you shouldn't get to be a company. That's just my thoughts. But anyway, they're going to get a second shot because a big thing was they installed a mailbox in front of this facility, which basically was an intimidation tactic. They also worked with the local government to change traffic lights. We've talked about that before. And they've also had these closed-door meetings, basically where they just go in and talk about how terrible unions are and lie to their employees about how bad unions are. So these captive audience meetings are despicable and honestly should be illegal. And if old Joe Biden, the most progressive president since FDR, really wants to be pro-union, as he kind of pretended to be at the beginning of his presidency, and maybe he is, I don't know, he should come out and back them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that, but at least they're getting a second shot at it after Amazon kind of screwed them. Lastly, I just wanted to put some resources for this because I've been talking about it a little bit on the pod, is that basically Omicron, as it kind of goes throughout and spreads throughout the community, teachers and students are fighting for safety measures. So you have Chicago Teachers Union voted 77% on January 4th to go fully remote until effective COVID mitigations to protect educators and students who are approved by members are enacted until the current COVID surge subsides. So you have a lot of different examples of this. It's good to see. You do have pretty bad transmission rates. So you can see citywide positivity rates over 20%, hospitals overwhelmed. Different places are different. There are certain places where hospitals are definitely being overwhelmed, and some of that is because they're understaffed, because the nurses are also getting it, and it's not great. So CPS, Chicago Public Schools, had already faced staffing shortages the first few days of the year when the district failed to implement adequate testing protocols. CTU members determined that the safety of students and educators once again required remote learning. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of this around the United States right now, is people fighting, teachers fighting for either hybrid or remote learning. It's essential to be able to do that. Now, there are obviously issues with that. A lot of people don't have access to high-speed internet, and that's why we should have countrywide broadband put in, where everyone can get access to cheap, affordable internet. You also need to get rid of some of these monopolistic practices by the internet providers, because ISPs are pretty monopolistic, and there should maybe just be like a government option. I'm not against having private internet providers, but you should have maybe one government ISP that offers, you know, like at least like a gig a second or something, and then it puts it at like a $20 a month, and then you can have the free market as well and see if they see how well they compete, and we'll see. But also you have people saying, children need to go to school and in person because they need to learn to interact with other human beings. I mean, you can. I agree that it's not exactly the same on the internet, but it's also not good for their development if they get COVID, especially if they get, like we talked about earlier, long COVID, and we don't know what the long-term effects of COVID are on people. There's recent studies that I talked about, and I don't think it's peer-reviewed yet, so again, take it with a grain of salt. Basically that it increases the chance of diabetes in children. We don't know. There could be something where it gives you Alzheimer's 30 years on. Now, there's no evidence of that, but we just don't know because it's such a new disease. It's literally called a novel virus. It means new. So I think if you want to have a middle ground option, you do remote learning, but you have, depending on the size of the class, 4 to 5 kids, or maybe 3 to 5 kids that meet up at certain people's houses, and they do remote learning together. So you have a little small group. I think that's one option. I think there are probably a number of other options where we could get around this. The best option, honestly, is to just pay everyone to stay home for 2 weeks, okay? You pay everyone for 2 weeks to stay home. You wait until there's no more community transmission, and boom, it's done. And then you lock down the borders, and anyone that wants to come in does a 14 or 21-day quarantine, and then you're back to normal. You literally don't even need to wear masks anymore because there will be no transmission. You will totally eliminate the virus. But I don't think people want to do that. So if we're looking for a middle ground solution, I think that might be it. But it seems like in a lot of places, people are just going to keep running their heads into the ground and trying to push this forward. It's just not going to work. I hope there's all these news stories now about how, COVID is over after this Omicron variant. I hope it is. I deeply hope that it is. But it's just as likely that we get a variant that's equally transmissible and 3, 5, 10, 100 times as deadly as Omicron. Again, I hope that is not the case, but it's possible. Let's just say that it's possible that something like that happens. So people need to think long and hard about how we're going to handle this, and we'll see. Again, like I said, it is possible that it just goes away. I don't think that's what will happen, but I do hope it is. Okay, here's some semi-positive news. China is going to let ride-hailing drivers and delivery workers form unions. Now, this is seems good, and it is kind of good because it's going to give them at least a little bit of collective bargaining power. However, because of how unions are formed in China, they all have to form under the as the All China Federation of Trade Unions, or the ACTFU. Because of this one simple fact, they're not quite as representative, might we say, and there's not as much autonomy for these unions. So I suggest that everyone go and read this. I'm going to connect this article from Reuters. It's called Explainer, how unions work in China, and they kind of talk about how all of them basically have to form under this ACFTU, and it does, and it has been getting better. And there's some like rumors around Xi Jinping saying that maybe in the like behind the scenes he's kind of pushing for it to be a little bit stronger and actually fight for workers more. But it, as we'll see in some of these future stories, it hasn't been doing a terrifically good job. And also you can see, it talks about also in this article, which we've talked about on the podcast before, is this 996 work practices. So 996 is working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. And this is actually a violation of Chinese labor law. So they're just like openly violating the law. And to be fair, which I try to be, but I don't know why when it comes to China. But they have been at least saying they're going to fight this. Now, whether if they do or not is really hard to tell. Like just like they've been talking about how they're going to make workplaces safer. It seems to be a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of action, similar to the United States government, honestly. So we'll see. But yeah, like I said, here it talks about Xi basically criticizing them behind closed doors, but this is all speculation. We don't necessarily know. So let's hope that it does, and hope that it gets better, and hope that the Chinese government actually does fight for workers. But they certainly have to make sure that they make their money, right? It's still state capitalism. So this hyper capitalism in China is similar to elsewhere, and they were going to keep trying to make money. So this is kind of more information that I'll link, and I don't remember if I mentioned this in this or the last stream, but I link all of the stories in the show notes, so you can check if you're watching on YouTube, check in the show notes at the bottom. Same thing with the podcast or any other place that you're watching this. So this is kind of just explaining the 996 and the problems that they're having with it. And it just kind of gives you a greater look into, this is just mostly white collar workers. So do check this out. I think it's an interesting read, and China Labor Bulletin is like a pretty good resource actually. This is kind of why I like them, is they have like a lot of like real world. I'll also label Taiwan as a country. That's pretty sick. I guess I don't know if it's a country. It's just called Taiwan, but anyway. It looks like it's a country. Anyway, I get distracted. Anytime they do that, I get excited. So you can see like the number of labor strikes going on. They also have an accident map, so you can look at the number of workplace accidents that's happened. I guess as you can see, like most of them look like they're fire. You can learn a little Chinese geography here too. And then they also have a workers' call for help map. So this is like kind of nice, like reference to see kind of how everything's going. But yeah, I like CLB. Yeah, this is the same thing, I guess. But there's a number of I just pulled one, but there was a number of them. There was a gas explosion that happened, but I didn't just want to cover like labor disasters in China for fears of being called like just dogging on like accidents, because they happen in the United States a lot too, and OSHA like doesn't do a terribly great job of holding companies responsible. Like I said, look at Amazon, who like didn't like even air condition their factories, had people working in like 100-degree heat for like 12-hour shifts, and literally people dropping dead, and like barely got any. They got like a slap on the wrist. So, yeah, I didn't want to like unfairly attack them, but thankfully these coal miners were rescued. They were working in a legal coal mine in Shaoyi, Shanxi, in China. So, yeah, this kind of stuff happens a lot. It's also should be remembered that again, the government has planned to go to green energy, but 60% of the power still comes from coal. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, I'll definitely be coming with more China labor bulletins articles because they do a pretty good job. But yeah, oh, this is actually another story that I kind of want to talk about, but um, let's take this out of the China tab. But we can come back to this, but I'll just share this in the notes because I think it's important. But the labor leaders basically getting arrested in Hong Kong. Um, this was a while ago, but it should also be remembered they're like totally destroying labor unions in Hong Kong as well. It's probably going to be almost none because of the national security law there, which is sad to see. So don't forget about Hong Kong, y'all. All right, moving to another country with its own share of labor issues, and that is Taiwan. So we have Changhua Telecom Union is unhappy with the pay raise. So as it says here, they failed to deliver. The telecom had promised a raise of more than 4%, but provided a raise about 4% and a one-time bonus of $5,000. So you see companies do this a lot. They control about 35.29% of the market, and they had made the promise to raise it. Okay, this is after Su Zhenzong. Su Zhenzong is the premier in Taiwan. He announced a 4% raise for civil servants, teachers, and military personnel. Again, these 4% a year is probably acceptable. I would have to look at the inflation rates. It's probably about on pace. But if it's not happening every year, you're overall probably taking a pay cut because this probably happens once every 5 years or something. So yeah. Anyway, the union kind of just fooled these, or didn't fool them, but lied to these people, which is unfortunate. Especially the pandemic hasn't been as bad here, but it still created a lot of strains. So hopefully, and the union situation in Taiwan is not so great either. It's quite neoliberal here, so hopefully we'll see more of this. This is a story I saw right before I came on. This is just kind of gross, and this is I mean, the article is not bad. I like Focus Taiwan. CNA is pretty good, but this is titled "Migrant Workers Encouraged to Enter Model Worker Competition." This is from the Ministry of Labor. So they're having a competition to be like a model worker, and they're saying this is to like give them recognition for their hard work, but then just like fight for them to have higher wages and like stop the abuse. We'll talk about the abuse of migrant laborers in a second, but Taiwan has a huge problem with abuse of migrant laborers, both physical abuse, but also just treating them like trash. And they want to be called this like international melting pot. Even though I mean it's an ethno state, let's be honest. But even if you want to be like this internationalist country, you can't bring in immigrants and then treat them like garbage. And the pandemic has definitely exacerbated that, especially for Southeast Asian workers, but even for people trying to immigrate from like more like quote unquote rich, affluent countries like from the United States. Ari has some personal stories with people he was trying to get over here. I don't know how much he wants to talk about that, so I'll let him do that on his own. But it's been a nightmare, especially during COVID. But even before, the immigration system here is not good. And for these workers that need to work under these brokerage systems, it's just horrific. And we'll get into that in a little bit here. But this is kind of just like weird tokenism. So it says the winners each will get a cash prize around 10,000 NT, which is they estimate as $361.72 in US dollars. And they'll get to meet President Tsai Ing-wen. Um, so yeah, they're gonna be uh, notified before Labor Day. It's just kind of gross. Like I don't know. Like it seems like you should just like actually fight to like treat these people as equal to average citizens, pay them a living wage. Here's another article that I think is really important to read. This is basically just about a young Vietnamese worker who was like brutally beaten, detained, and now he. So the story is like he wasn't getting any attention. He was trying to talk to the guards for some reason. Yeah, it says several times a day he would ask the guards why he had been arrested, so he doesn't know why he's detained. What his rights were and when he could go home to Vietnam. Nobody answered his question. He had no access to a translator or a lawyer, which should be illegal. Frustrated, this man took a metal lid from a water container and hit a television. So basically, they beat the crap out of this guy and chained him 24/7, except for when he was taking a shower. Locked him in solitary and just beat the crap out of him. And then the second time, he hit a door and they beat the crap out of him. So now they're literally suing him for damage to property. But the funny thing is, they won't. I don't know where this is in the article, but everyone should go through and read it themselves. But he's not. They're not gonna charge him for hitting the door because they would have to release the video of them beating the crap out of this guy and giving him 9 stitches in his head. So it's just disgusting. Hopefully, there's justice for these people, and also hopefully, Taiwan reforms its system. You can look. This is a good example. Is that migrant workers are demonstrating Sunday basically, so they can change employment. This is again, like I talked about the brokerage systems. I think Oh, this is a different thing. This is about 400 people that rallied in front of the DPP headquarters, and they marched to the Ministry of Labor. So, I'll let you guys read this story, but basically they deal with this brokerage system in Taiwan, and so they actually talk about in this article as well that they have to check in with these brokers all the time. And failure to do so like every 3 days basically means that you're like an illegal immigrant now. So these people like a lot of times bring you in, make you pay tons of money to bring you into the country, put you in a bunch of debt, take your passport, and then if you don't like do everything to their liking, or you slightly piss them off, or you miss some rule and no one correctly translated for you, well, now you're just an illegal alien now, and they can throw you in jail. It's disgusting. Last thing, again, I suggest everyone go read through all of this. Brian does a really good job about talking about labor rights, and this Newsland's piece is also really good by Peter and Michelle Kuo. Very good. Lastly, on the Taiwan, Chinese asylum seekers rose 700% in 8 years. Now, this is not so much about necessarily like workers, but it is about like average people and protecting protesters. So obviously it's increasing a lot, and a lot of times these people get left at the border. And Taiwan talks about it's just like it talks about its its internationality, and its desire to be like a global player, but they do not do enough for immigrants, and that goes for their labor, but it also goes for them trying to flee places like authoritarian hellholes like China and now increasingly Hong Kong. They often make like tacit statements, but they don't actually really end up doing anything in the end. So hopefully They do. Now, that's not to say they never do anything, because there are some some people that have fled and gotten asylum here in Taiwan. Um, and I understand people may have concerns about that they're going to send, use it to send spies or whatever. But that's you'll find out soon enough if they're spies. And I'm not saying you have to give them like, you know, some crazy rights or like elect them president or something, but provide them with sanctuary. I think should be something that shouldn't be that hard, or at least help them get passage to somewhere else. Don't send them back to China, where they're likely to be put back into a black site, honestly, or worse. Yeah, take care of them is something that we should be doing. All right, lastly, I have a little story out of Cambodia. So Cambodia here says, in Cambodia, union arrests spotlight pressure on civil society. So this is at a giant casino in Phnom Penh. A bunch of laborers were laid off, and then labor leaders were arrested. So this is, I just wanted to highlight this, so people don't just pay attention to like what's happening in one country. It's important to look at this, and also to understand why, if you have the opportunity to unionize and to organize your labor, you should take advantage of it, especially because so many people have it so much worse. I mean, literally, this labor organizer was moving from like safe house to safe house, and then eventually they got her, these plainclothes officers, and just drug her to a car, and then you just disappear, right? And there's been a number of them, but anyway, just really sad to see. But again, hopefully these people get some public silence. Hopefully they get some public support, and hopefully global support, and get their needs met, because this is disgusting that this giant casino, a huge multinational corporation, can make all this money and then just lay people off and treat their workers like trash. So it's just it's frustrating, but that's the point, is that we have to work together and work in solidarity to make sure that we can take care of each other, that we support each other, and that conditions get better all around the world. It's easy to get discouraged, but like I said, there's been a lot of positive trends, and knowing and understanding what's happening, I think is obviously the first step in trying to make them better. So please do try to pay attention. Reach out to your fellow workers, especially people that you work with, and yeah, try to organize in whatever way that is, whether that's collectively talking to your boss or forming a union or whatever you can do at your in your specific situation. That also goes for students. If you feel like you're being treated poorly, organize. Organizing together is certainly quite a good way to get what you want, get what you need, folks. And that's why I talk about this stuff, is because I think it is key. And it also helps us to have conversations that we need to push society in the directions we want in other ways besides just labor. That also goes for things like how we want our country to look, what kind of policies and laws we want implemented, et cetera, et cetera. So have those conversations and also pay attention. It would be the two things that I encourage y'all to do. But all right, folks, I'll get out of your ear. It's good to talk to y'all again for a little Worker Wednesday. I will probably be doing more updates, and we will have a proper podcast out on Friday again. So stay tuned for that. I love you guys. Make sure you guys go check out the website. There's been a lot more articles up from the beautiful staff writer over at FCP. So you can check all that out. Some of it's local news out of Taiwan, but we got a bunch of different quick hitting stories. They're quick reads too, so you can get a little bit of information, kind of know what's going on. So do check those out. While you're on the site, please do disable that ad blocker, and if you see any advertisements that are interesting to you, do go ahead and click on them, and that will help us out a lot. And then the other thing, obviously, is join the Patreon, patreon.com. That's patreon.com/FreeChinaPost. You can get all kinds of cool goodies there. And that helps, obviously, directly helps us out, and that'll makes a big difference. And then the other thing you can do is just, if you can do nothing else, share us on social media, talk to your friends, tell them about us. Say, hey, I found this new podcast. However you want to share it, but spread the word. It really does help us, and ratings as well. Ratings on iTunes, things like that. It does help us out. I hate to have to tell you guys this every time, but it's very difficult to spread the word, especially when you say stuff that the establishment doesn't like. We're not sponsored by some big media corporation, and we also don't advertise besides on the website, and that the only reason we do that is because it's decentralized. It's based on your viewing habits, so we're not directly responsible to anyone. So we don't need to we can't talk about this story because it might upset the advertisers. No, we can still say whatever we want, which is nice. Same thing on YouTube. I doubt there are many ads on our things because pretty hard to get monetized on YouTube. Also, we don't make any money off the YouTube, but the more of you that share us and watch and stuff and subscribe on the YouTube, maybe eventually we might make a couple cents per year. So, but we appreciate all you guys do. We love you, and I'll talk to you soon. FCP 最大